Hello, welcome everyone to this GWCN session featuring Francesca Chiodi on walkability in Rome, titled Snapshot of a Nightmare and Clues for Waking Up. We are the global Walkability Correspondents Network, an international collective of now over about 240 members all around the world who support walkability as an essential foundation element for sustainable cities. Today, we are featuring Francesca Chiodi, based in Rome. She is a medical doctor, critical walker, and beginner urban cyclist since 2005. She founded Movimento Diritti dei Pedoni. Sorry for my pronunciation, a young social media advocacy movement focused on pedestrian rights, walkability, road safety, and public space in Italy. The movement is rapidly growing and expanding its multidisciplinary network with plans to become a recognized association soon. It's in the process of becoming an NGO, and is aware that Rome is a tough but also the best laboratory to challenge current policies and cultural motonormativity from its foundations and possibly save and improve lives. Thank you, Francesca, in advance for your presentation. I'm really looking forward to it. Also very honored to have you in our network, and we'll really look forward to watching your NGO grow and watching the advocacy that you cultivate and spark in Rome develop. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, Annika. Actually, I'm very, very happy and proud to be here today to try to present you really an overview of what is our perception of walkability in Rome. As you said, Movimento Diritti dei Pedoni is really a young group of people that are starting to work on informing, educating, pushing institutions and networking with all the possible professionals and advocates that can bring an added value to improve really the walkability with all that this means for public health, for personal health and society. So I'm really happy that in Italy we just started, but we received a very nice feedback from the community, and of course we will be starting also to work in collaboration with the international network. And I'm really happy to see that there is the pedestrian space network, because we are really thirsty of the possibility to capture also your experience. So I will do really a presentation of first the Italian landscape, and then to a deep dive into Rome situation. And then I would love to hear what are your thoughts, what are your feelings, and also suggestions and possible clues for us to come out from this nightmare, because it's something that we feel really as it is. So I will start to present and share my screen. Hopefully you would see it. I would start the presenting mode, and thanks a lot for sharing some clues on where are you based. I invite you to tag and to flash this QR code to have all the feedbacks when I will end the presentation. So if you want, it would be very nice to know all the participants country, and of course, thanks for this opportunity to share my perspective and our perspective. Of course, we are not alone. This has to be mentioned. We are working also in collaboration with other partners, with other road safety association, with cyclist association, and so this is something that is really a network in Italy. But during this presentation, I will share really what is our perspective and our vision of this Italian situation. So I would start. What's the Italian mobility scenario? It's something important to have some context, some basics to have something to look at the Rome situation. So in Italy, motorization rate is increasing, is growing constantly from the early 2000s. So as you see in the left part of these slides, and as another important context that is also presented and shared within the European Transport Safety Council, after the pandemic, although the mobility overall decreased in some parts of the mobility objectives, overall the sustainable mobility dropped, and this is a very worrying situation. In the latest ETSC report for Italy, and as we see it, this is the consequence of the lack of investment that was not made during the earlier decades. I would say not only the pandemic days, but also we should look very much back in time to explain this the situation that we have in Italy as a whole. What about road safety, which we feel it's a really important part and has a really important role for walkability? Italy is not at the best positions in Europe when it comes to road fatality rates. And in 2022 versus 2021, we have seen an improvement and an increase more than an improvement, of course, of road deaths, which are above 3,000, and a similar increase in injured people with our in respect of 2021. And the road fatality rate increased as well. So the country position is not good, as also the ETSC observes, referring Italy to other European countries. A focus on pedestrian safety. We have the National Statistics Italian Institute, of course, that monitors the main aspects, let's say, of road safety. Anyway, we have to look at an unofficial para-institutional pedestrian deaths observatory, which is driven by road police, let's say, is a road police connected page, but anyway, an official one that registers pedestrian deaths in an ongoing manner. And from what we see in this observatory, 2023 will be even worse of the previous year. Now we have seen the pandemic effect on mobility decreasing. So mobility is, at least in Italy, as we see, is starting to to have the usual shape, I would say, but of course it's not an ideal shape. And so we are really counting on this observatory to monitor the situation. Lazio region, where Rome is the worst one when it comes to pedestrian deaths. And urban areas are the most threatening places for walking in Italy from this observatory, and also from the official data. As a consequence, so really linked to this data that we see, we have seen in the latest, in the previous year, so in 2022, deaths for pedestrian increasing, and also injuries. A common observation is that the spaces that are apparently safe for pedestrians are the most dreadful for them. So 1/3 and 1.5 of deaths and injuries for pedestrians in Italy do happen on street crossings, on zebra crossings. And this is an important insight on how much speed enforcement and speed regulations could be important, especially into the urban areas, but of course not only there. On the right, here there is a very important graphs and figure which explains what's the fatality rate per person for walking related to walking exposure. And so we see that Italy really stands out in a non-pleasant position. I tried to figure out for this presentation to answer to a question. So what could be the most impactful elements for this scenario, for this bad shape, for this bad landscape that we have in Italy when it comes to mobility and to road safety. To me, there are three main factors that I will explain shortly. Probably the most important one, but we are still studying and screening all the situation, of course, could be the institutions' impact in Italy, not only for mobility. Law enforcement is generally, I would say, mild and also jeopardized because of the administrative fragmentation that we have in Italy. This is one factor. Another observation that we made during our very first months of advocacy is that unexplainedly, road safety is really out of official reports when it comes to crime and to safety perception. And I'm considering also Ministry of Interior and official police reports. So road safety is really not mentioned as a safety threat for citizens, and this is an important element to us. We had the recent approval, the first steps of approval of a new road code, which we gently call a war legitimation, because it really goes probably in the wrong direction when it comes to protecting vulnerable users and reducing the road threats and road risk for safety. we saw in some, I didn't detail it, but it's available online. And basically there are two main problems with this new red code. One is a paternalistic perspective on vulnerable users with an obligation to protect themselves, instead of reducing the possibility to harm from dangerous users of the road. And closely connected to this, it really focused to increase law enforcement on specific groups, specific violations that may have a populistic impact. As an example, for drug abuse when driving, and not a broad impact, a broad action plan on, for example, speed access enforcement as a whole. So these are just two examples to justify our judgment on this new normative. Second element is economy. In Italy, from many decades, we had a very important incentive to car economy. So this is something that really moves our economy. And we believe this is an important factor to consider also for political reasons and cultural reasons. And the third element is culture. I will tell a bit more later in the presentation, but the cultural car supremacy is another element that for us is very important. As you see, I didn't mention geography, because probably this element is not so impactful for the current mobility as any geographical distance or issue with the current technologies is probably not so difficult to overcome. And then a question: do institutions influence behaviors? Here I reported to exemplify what I said before, an official slide presented by the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport, which basically says stop to autovelox that threatens people's wealth, so that eats money of people, basically. And this is the language. This is really the exact translation of this slide in Italian. So also this language is to us very impactful on legitimizing some behaviors. As the one on the right, you see SUV whose driver decided to remove protective pillars in a road in Rome. This is Rome, actually, because he decided, or she, we don't know, decided that his privilege was more valuable than any pedestrian possibility to move and walk in the same street. So we feel that these two situations may be profoundly interconnected, but not only. And then let's talk about Rome. Wonderful city, everybody is dreaming when Rome is mentioned. Of course, it is a wonderful city, and we would like really to walk freely and safely in this wonderful environment. A city overview. So of course, Rome has a huge area. It's 10 times bigger than Milan, for example. Here the population about 3 million inhabitants, doesn't consider tourists, doesn't consider students, commuters. So the population also is big, but not bigger than many other cities of the world, of course. But if you ask anyone in Rome, how big is Rome? So probably the image, the imagination of this person would go very, very much back in time when there was the Roman Empire. So this is the dimension of Rome felt by anyone living in Rome, probably. We have also a quite different urbanization, especially in peripheral areas. There are residential new parts of the city, which are basically entire towns, which are not connected with public transports, and this increases car dependency in this city. Of course, climate and environment can be quite challenging, as in other cities, and especially in the latest years. So this is, let's say, an overview of what we see and how we feel Rome could be as a city seen from outside. Also, mobility is important to mention, of course, and a very important road extension, a very high motorization rate, higher than the national median. And if you see just, let's say, a reduced age that is not including very young people and very old people, basically there are as much cars as people in Rome, with more than 2 million vehicles. And in the upper right side of the slide, you see the subway service as an example. Of course, there are also tram lines, there are also buses, there is also there are also urban railways to support urban mobility. But the level of accessibility and the level of service, as you see, we have just 3 lines of subway in Rome, is underserving the mobility. This reflects as other factors on the favorite modality that is presented in the mobility report for Rome in 2022. This is an official report. And the report says that in 3 years, so after the pandemic, basically, the favorite modality, as a favorite modality in car driving, moved from 46 to 60%, and public transport reduced in the same time frame. So this is reflecting the national situation, but it's also worse in our eyes. It's time for road safety. We had in Rome a huge number of crashes with injuries, with deaths. Rome is the worst city in Italy when it comes to mortality rate on the street. And basically, if we look only at pedestrian deaths in Rome in 2022, we see that the number is 9% of all Italian pedestrian deaths, which is an incredibly high number for us. And that's why we feel that road safety has an important role in the walkability as a whole in Rome as a city. Some examples, some images of our everyday that can explain how we feel while walking in Rome. So the road as a public space is really occupied, basically, in any way possible. So no this can be quite different from municipality to municipality, but that's the most common scenario that you could see. So if you just imagine an elderly person or a child, how could be difficult to move and to walk from A to B in this situation. Another situation which is related to politics and infrastructure is that we have a very large Rome. We do have in many cases huge spaces, road spaces, but a small portion of the road space is dedicated to walkability, to pedestrians, and moreover we have no horizontal signals, let's say, and this is really not helping drivers to move in an ordered way, but also to not exceed urban speed, which is 50 kilometers per hour. Drivers are really fast, and probably part of this is due to the lack of guidance and on enforcement to respect all the street rules and apply the street code. Other feelings, also we have many problems, one on the another in Rome. One of these is the problem that you see on the left. It could be not pleasant to walk, especially during summer. And basically, as you see, also the bike lanes can be really difficult to move through. In the center of this slide, you see the situation and really the impossibility sometimes to have services that are essential for streets manutention. And this is an example to an extent that sometimes common citizens take action and just ride on the streets. And in this case, someone wrote, "You must stop here," with a spray, just to make an example. Some other examples, of course, also accessibility is a problem. Even when sidewalks are free from cars, let's say, it may happen that from the previous decades, from the previous history, let's say, nobody thought about the possibility of performing any manutentive work on infrastructures. And this could be the consequence. Of course, you cannot even walk through the sidewalk. And also the urban green manutention could be really impactful, especially for disabled people, for example, and really impair the possibility to walk. Besides safety itself, but of course, this is accessibility is an important part of the walkability as a whole. Public transports. This summer, this spring, it could have been really hard to take a metro. This is an example of what happens in some days, most days probably, because the service is really not so not reflecting the need mostly. And it could be difficult as well to reach even the station of a public transport. So, for example, you see the how huge, how wide is a road without zebra crossing to reach a metro station in Rome, and also how welcoming, I would say, is this bus stop that simply is along a street, with heavy traffic, by the way. We wondered, but what is the worst problem for a person who walks in Rome? And we made this kind of question to our social network. These are the answer. About 190 people answered. Of course, this is biased by itself because this is our social network bubble, of course, but it was worthwhile anyway to ask. Road safety has a big part for people who work in Rome, but as well accessibility and design of public space. A bit behind is distances, public transport, and climate and weather is the least one felt that people feel like the most urgent problem. Of course, this doesn't mean that it is not a problem, but probably it's felt with less urgency than the other ones. So this is a nice test that we did. So we are getting close to our to the conclusion of this presentation. I hope that I was able to communicate what's our feeling. Of course, it's not a nice one. We really need some Caron bringing us hand in hand out of it. We are not alone, so it's this is a good aspect. Probably there are these three aspects, these three drivers that can bring us out of this nightmare. And one very important is policy change. Law enforcement is another one, and here there is another kind of work. And the cultural change, we feel, is also very important. Anything else that anybody feels can be important in this direction, I'm very happy to hear from you in a few minutes. And we are moving on this, let's say, these tactics, let's call them, to change this situation for pedestrians in Rome, and not only, of course, but Rome is really a quite challenging laboratory to test all these ways through. Of course, we have to challenge administration, we have to challenge institutions and their representatives. We, at the same time, may have to educate and inform and to communicate what's the value of walkability and of the actions that we take, and that policymakers would take if they did. Networks with academy, we are really trying to connect with urbanists, architects, people that have the technical knowledge and the preparation to have the best information and to best communicate and also deal with all the activities and stakeholders. Visibility and language really is something very important for us. And latest point, but not least, we really want and will to connect and to gather all the expertise from the international advocacy. So we really want to learn, basically. This is an image that I felt enlightening when I saw it. It's a thorough vision, so we feel that it's needed for working on workability, especially when it comes to culture, but not only. I find that this example of white supremacy culture could be really something like what we see for workability. We have an overt supremacy. We have a covert supremacy, which is socially acceptable, and it's something that makes the roots for privileges and for discrimination. So this can be really something transversal to many forms of discrimination. And this is a draft of how we see the motonormative culture. The bar is dangerously high here, and probably this could mean that overt that there are few behaviors that are really socially unacceptable, but many behaviors and also forms of violence against pedestrians, against cyclists, because we are really all in the same boat, that are socially acceptable. And so we really might have to drop this bar. Harassing accident narrative. So this was an accident. Victim blaming, tolerating violent behaviors, street design that is car-centric. I just mentioned some. Speed myth, this is really strong in Italy. Also driving as a human right. Also the paternalism that sometimes covers and the victims, the narrative around the victim and the narrative around the drivers and the accidents themselves. So as said, this is really a draft, but it's something that that can help us in understanding that probably we can do a lot of work on the language, on the media narrative to disinnescate this motonormative culture. Of course, it takes time. It takes it could take long, but this is something to really reach together. Conclusion, threats, opportunities. So Rome is a beautiful and talented but lazy student that can easily fall on a banana peel, and it falls. What are the threats? Advocacy for pedestrians is really a bit fragmented, and for now the impact has been quite low. But of course, this does not mean that it will be low in future. We have a lot of institutional, political, administrative pushbacks, also technical officers that can provide additional levels of challenge. And as I said before, road safety is a big issue that has a role for us. But at the same time, we have some opportunities. So we see that here, that these years, there is a big momentum for active mobility, advocacy, and an increasing attention on it. We feel that the academics, the researchers, are interested increasingly in these aspects and can be important allies. And we feel that the lexicon, having a shared lexicon, a common language, and pushing for a culture change can be something helpful in this direction. So at this point, having said that, this is really something to conclude our speech, my speech. What about you? What do you think of this nightmare? What do you feel as a challenges, but also what do you feel you can tell as a best practice that can bring us rays of hope, experiences? What should we prioritize? What you did that can help us? So this is really, really very important to us. And as a conclusion, before ending this slide presentation, thanks to Pedestrian Space for inspiring us, really, because we would be having our urban working lab for the European Mobility Week. We will try to connect all the community around this part of Rome and to discuss what they see basically as issues. So we really want to open people's eyes and also trying to figure out what the same space could be shaped to meet the needs for any person with any disability, with any situation, and so gathering ideas from people. So I really want to get back to this slide to ask for your experiences, and really thank you. And that's really all.
Seeing some great clapping signs. That was really, really fascinating. And let's just turn it straight over to Q&A. Francesca, I'll allow you to moderate. I have a feeling you're a great moderator, so why don't we just jump right in with people's...
Yeah, yes. Also, questions are really, really welcome. Absolutely.
Okay, Julius there has his hand raised.
Okay, I was waiting that somebody addresses me. Yeah, thank you, Francesca, for that very interesting presentation. I was in Rome and in Sicily and in other places in Italy this year in spring. And from a short stay, I had the same impressions like you had. So it's really a challenging environment. About my background, I do research on pedestrian crossing safety. So what you taught about the number of accidents happening on the pedestrian crossings is really interesting for me, from my point of view. And I found it quite interesting to see that that there is this observatory that collects this data together between different institutions, that there's not even one clear number about the accidents. So I used some accident data in the past. I think that might be outdated. Okay, but what I found very interesting in your talk was the question that you posted with the social media about what people find challenging. And I found it so surprising that only I think a few percent said that it's the weather and the climate, because I thought that would be much higher percentage. So that was very surprising. Yeah, and to come up, because you in the end asked for questions or for what to do or how to come out of this nightmare circle, and you had the slide with the like 4 interlinking bubbles. There was one bubble called "What else?" I would suggest to say infrastructure. That is a part of policy, but but I would maybe also put it as an extra point, especially when it comes to pedestrian crossings. In my opinion, it is a bit like, yeah, they are on interesting places or they're way too long, etc. So I don't know, have you thought about working in this direction, maybe pushing for a change of the standards, how pedestrian infrastructure is built out, or is it out of your current scope?
Yeah, thanks, Julius. Really interesting comment. Yes, probably the infrastructure we feel that fall into the policy making. Anyway, this could be also a separate point when it comes to strategic directions. So thank you so much for the suggestion. I see Diego as well with the hand raised.
Hi everyone. Thanks for this really interesting presentation. I wanted to know if there is any city that you're looking as an example that had similar issues in the past and you can replicate those changes in that city.
So we are looking especially at South America, actually, but this is the fresher example that I have in mind, because I believe that European cities are moving really faster and moved already, but probably US and South America are quite good examples on where to look at for similar, let's say, baseline as Rome could have. If you have suggestions, you are really welcome, Diego, to mention and to connect.
Yeah, I'm actually looking for suggestions to see another examples, because we have pretty same situation here in Buenos Aires. So about cars being on the top of the pyramid instead of pedestrians. So I really look forward to hear those experiences.
Thank you so much, Diego. I believe we will connect further. I see Blair's hand raised. I cannot hear you, Blair. I don't know. Probably you're on mute.
My fault. Hi, can you hear me now?
No worries. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Francesca. Beautiful presentation. Really good. And I had two thoughts, separate thoughts that came to mind from, here in the United States, we're off the charts in terms of in the wrong direction in terms of road safety compared to most of Europe and even places closer like Canada, much more dangerous. Your talk about enforcement, I thought was interesting. Here, during the pandemic, we've seen traffic enforcement essentially stop in a lot of places. There's a great graphic that someone put together using data from San Francisco. But on an average year, the city would do something like 17 to 20,000 traffic tickets. And in the years after, they were doing something like, 200 or 300. I mean, it is, they had all but stopped. And so you're seeing a lot of places having a big push towards automated enforcement, which I know is a bigger, which is already more prevalent in Europe as a general thing. More speed cameras, more, red light cameras, more things like that to try to, not just reduce interactions with the police, but if the police will not enforce this, to try to find a more automated way to do it, which I thought might be interesting and useful. The other thought was I'm always focused on transit a bit, and I know this has been less of an issue there, but it's still true. One of the problems we've seen so many transit systems here are still focused so firmly on commuting. They're focused on people going to and from work and nothing else. And especially here in the States, working from home has become a huge part of the economy, and that's very much hurt it. And there's been less of a focus on serving other sorts of trips, going to, shopping, going to visit friends and things. And we've seen that places that have actually focused on these non-core trips have seen their ridership rise back up to where they were pre-pandemic, whereas places that have stayed very focused on, oh, we're going to run most of our service during commuting times and we're going to run a poor service the other times, they've had really difficulty getting riders back as people's habits have really changed. So another thing to consider. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much.
Really interesting talk, and the law, the enforcement is a very important one, and sometimes I would say often maybe not a resources problem, but really a political problem. So we have all the technologies that can support, but this is very difficult for an administration to rule out. Thanks so much. I see Julius' hand raised. I don't know if it was from before or a new one.
Oh, it's a new one, if I may.
Thanks.
Because the talk was about examples, and of course, I think Rome is a very specific case because Rome is big. I don't know if you have been to Perugia. In my opinion, that is a very good example for walkability in this like historic Mediterranean contexts. I was there on my trip and I really enjoyed it. That the old town is like car free and you have like the access with these escalators and stuff. So I think that was a really, really nice example to do it. So I don't know. Do you have any thoughts or backgrounds on
you made yeah, thanks, Julius. So you made a quite nice example because I'm also in contact with the person who opened a social media page, which is not in Perugia. It's not a city for pedestrians, which is not a case, because there probably the geographical factors, but also the accessibility and infrastructures are really really strong. But at the same time, they see the car dependency is very, very high. So this is probably this is a special case, but that can explain something that is lived more in the town side. So not the huge cities examples, but more on smaller towns, which are still have these kind of problems, of course, in Italy. So yeah, thanks for mentioning. Any other thoughts? I see Mohammed's hand.
Yes. Sorry, my brother is in my back, so I'm not turning my video sharing on. So excuse me for that. Okay, so nice presentation. Thanks for it. I have a question related to the safety you mentioned and mobility. I'm thinking about that. Are you following a specific approach or something like a specific strategy or not?
Sorry, I missed the first part when it comes to.
I want to make sure that are you following a specific approach, like safe system approach, or a specific strategy like Vision Zero?
Well, this is the, let's say, the perspective that we have in mind, and in theory also the institution should have and have in written, but do not action. So yes, this is the main objective, let's say, and probably our biggest challenge is that institutions and administration do align on this vision, not only in their websites, but also when it comes to everybody's life. Yes.
Great. And how are you going to utilize the safety for people? With what? And you're just only focusing on the law enforcement? I don't know, maybe evaluation.
Yeah, now this is a very good question. We have to do multiple things, I believe. For geographical reasons, we are closer to Rome, and Rome, as said, has many opportunities, let's say. So we will strive for official communications to administrations, for example, to ask for proper infrastructures, to ask for proper speed enforcement. We were also thinking about measuring speed, actual speed in the streets, and then documenting it, and then communicating to the police and to the administration, and so asking for more controls. Also going above to the institutional levels, asking for publishing data on road safety, as it is a public health issue. So making noise, this is there are so many ways of making noise that probably we have to go for priority and for possibility also when it comes to resources that in our case are limited because we are very new. But I think that if we start from basic and potentially visible actions, impactful actions, we can then move forward. But as I said, probably in Rome, in particular, road safety and infrastructures are the most urgent topics on what to work.
Yeah, thank you. And I see, I can understand that you're moving beyond what are the research saying. That's great.
Well, hopefully, but of course we need to connect very much with the other association, with the academies, and so lots of work to do. Thanks, Mohammed.
Thank you.
I see also Corey's and.
Yes, great talk. Thank you. I was curious about Venice, how people in Rome think about the city of Venice, because it's typically listed as, you know, it's a car-free city, and I imagine it's very pleasurable and attractive for pedestrian activity. So do you have any insight on the way people in Rome think about Venice or Venice in general?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Venice is a special city, even more special than Rome. Its main so it's a smaller city, and its main issue that is also communicated by people living there is that it's gentrification. So the excess of tourism for what are the resources, the spaces, the livability for residents. So I honestly, the touristic impact really has gives lots of struggle to people living there, especially in summer, in some periods of the year. But at the same time, it may have also the water communication. So many people from many residents also move through cruise boats that make regular service. And basically, Venice City probably did not change so much geographically. Of course, the surroundings are changed. But yeah, the main issue I would say is the level of touristic impact there. That is less impactful probably in Rome, in some parts of the city. Of course, in the city center, the tourism is really huge, but at the same time, the city is not small as Venice. So here, probably it's more livable from this perspective than in a smaller city. Yeah, thanks a lot, Corey, for this comment and question. I don't know actually if there are other thoughts, other comments. Thoughts for Monica. Maybe I see that we ran over, so sorry. Probably I talked too much.
No, we started a little bit late, and I don't want to close this session when there's so many good questions. So, any further questions? We can keep it open a little longer. Maybe as people are thinking, if they have further questions, Francesca, if you want to mention your media handles, I've included them in the chat for everybody present. But also, I mean, I have introduced you as your organization as a young social media advocacy movement. So, if you want, as we're waiting to see if there's any final questions, any thoughts on media advocacy, the role that plays in all of this. And I love your logo, and I imagine this has all been also bubbling forth as you form your NGO and create the brand and set up the space to connect with other organizations and spread the word.
Yeah, no, thanks, Annika. This for us, for me, is very important. So the visibility, as the biggest minority, the one of pedestrians should be visible, and the feeling that I had honestly when starting this social media movement, that then will very soon become an NGO, was that there was nobody visible at the national level, no one, nothing more than organizations that were really experienced, with decades of experience really on the, but more working on the side of road victims, which is very important. But the aim that we see is really going, anticipating any potential problem and any road victim from the perspective of pedestrian, but of course from the road safety perspective and livability and walkability. So these pedestrian rights. And there is actually also an important document that is the European Charter for Pedestrian Rights that was out in 1988. So it's a very old document that is inspiring legislations at a national level, but we don't see effects in Italy at the moment. So it's to see walkability from the perspective of a right that we don't have anymore, and we can be even forgetting what's the meaning of having the right to move by to move and to walk from A to B. So this is the feelings that really get made this adventure start. And yes, the social media pages are basically the easiest way to be visible. So this was the first step possible, but they helped me and us very much to connect. And we are connecting and understanding who could be the very first nucleus and bunch of people moving forward for the next ones.
Yeah, that's great. I also appreciated how you mentioned that it's a political problem, and that we have all the resources we need in many cases to make changes, but it's a real political problem. So it'll be interesting to, stay in check with you about that, because I know that's the case for so many of our network members across the world in their cities that are not moving towards like this sustainable urban mobility perspective, but it's moving sort of in a different trajectory, and they almost always reference that it's a political problem. I also like that you emphasize it's a public health problem, because I feel like that is something that's coming more into really central focus when perhaps it wasn't, that this is a massive public health issue.
Yeah, and here's probably the medical doctor part that felt a bit bad with all these numbers, and really if roads would be a disease, we would see tons of doctors, infinite infrastructures, and huge investment to cure what causes so many deaths, but it's really something hidden, something that is not perceived because it's not probably politics do not want it to be perceived. So, but it is a public health issue, of course. Yes.
Have you written anything with it framed just like that? Have you written anything in Italian? Like if this was a disease and everything you just said, have you written an article yet about that?
So at the moment, not, but we are thinking to build a website also soon, hopefully, and to also have the possibility to provide strong messages and resources, and to have references, commentaries for studies. So all of this, of course, there is it's a work in progress. It will be a work in progress, but yeah, this could be an interesting hint, Annika. Yeah. Last questions, comments? Yeah. Thanks a lot for your questions, actually.
I have to do one thing that I like to do during sessions, especially as this was your first presentation to the network. I definitely hope we have more from you, but I want to mention all of the places that are represented here, because that's one of the exciting parts of our network, is connecting members across cities, continents, cultures, and countries. We have well, Julia's here in Gdansk now, but from Weimar, Germany. Blair's in New York, USA. Tonia in Chania, Greece. I hope I pronounced that right. We have Sarah in Rome. Corey, who left but is based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Diego in Tigre, Argentina. Tigre. And Merve in Istanbul, Turkey. Roberta in Rome. Mohammed in Isfahan, Iran. Myself in Warsaw, Poland. I hope I didn't miss anybody. So, and you've done your Slido, so you'll maybe have most of those. That was a neat introduction too. So, thank you so much. We all appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Annika, and everybody for this opportunity and for connecting. Really will enjoy to keep in touch with every one of you.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice evening all and the rest of your day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.